Yo, what's up YouTube? So in today's video, I will be giving you guys 3 tips on how to really improve your gameplay, and a lot of people make these mistakes. Even Z rankers make these mistakes, but in this gameplay, I am using an S ranker to show you guys even the high rankers make these massive mistakes, and is why I'm able to have a massive skill gap over them. Not to spoil it, but I beat him with just 2 characters, and a lot of people like to say, oh, you're using 5 character teams and that's how you win most of your games. No, most of the games I show are the challenging games where it has to go to that, because if it doesn't, the game will take forever. So the win condition for most of my games is I just need to down 1 character. But for most of my games that I do not show, most of them, I'm able to down all their characters with just 1 or 2 characters, because there is a massive skill gap. And the reason why I don't really show those games is because I don't think it's fun showing me just stomping the hell out of people. I like to show people when I get a really good challenge. So most of my videos are those games where it's really challenging, but that's maybe like 5% of my fights. Like, I remember when I went on my 51 win streak, it took me about 50 games before someone gave me a solid challenge. But hey, if you want to see more games of me just absolutely stomping people out, then let me know, I'll post them more. But with that being said, I will put a chapter of when I really summarize all 3 tips, but if you watch the whole video, you will see the examples, you will see why it's so important to follow these 3 tips. So don't just skip to the 3 tips. I really advise that you guys watch the video so you can see it in action, because not only do I show why the opponent is getting opened up or getting beaten because he's not using these 3 tips, but I use the 3 tips myself, and you could see how it's able to create a massive skill gap between me and my opponent. But anyway, enjoy the video. If you learned something, like and subscribe. Have a good night, you guys. Okay, so in today's video, I will be analyzing why a lot of you guys are hard stuck in the low S ranks, or even in the A ranks, or any rank for that matter, because a lot of these S rankers still make tons of mistakes. A lot of these mistakes could apply to anyone, even Z rankers, but I will be analyzing the mistakes that even S rankers make.
Spar with me? Really?
Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at is how he starts the round versus how I start the round. I start the round by throwing a few ki blasts. Notice how I am not mindlessly spamming my ki blasts. I am throwing them out 1 at a time. He already has 1 skill point. Let's see how 2 skill points. He spent it on a revenge counter. When he had 1 skill point, he could have used the super perception to stop my combo because I used a heavy attack. Okay, he spends another revenge counter. That's 4 skill points that he spent. Why did he use the revenge counter? When you do certain things, you have to think about why you do it. Okay, he gets his switch off with Gohan, which is good. You should be trying to switch as often as you can, especially if your character has been damaged. By the way, in this game, I basically beat him with using only 2 characters. And I mentioned that because there are some people who think I only win games through timing someone out with my 5-man team. That's only really the case when I'm going against really high ranked players who are of equal skill level to me. But most of my games are like this, where I just wipe their entire team with a few characters, because the skill gap is massive. I don't care to show games where I'm dominating the entire time. I like to show games where I make tons of mistakes and I have to condition my opponent. But you can see he used the revenge counter there. Finally, a super perception. That's one thing a lot of people do not do. They do not spend their super perceptions. Super perception is a really good way to stop my combos, especially since I use heavy attacks. Switches out his Popovich for Raccoon, but his Popovich took a lot of damage, and he couldn't really do anything about it because he's not really taking advantage of his defensive options. Okay, he gets a combo off on me. Let's see what he does. Notice how he's not really using ki blasts. Ki blasts are not only a long range option. If anything, ki blasts are best close range to open someone up. If you're not using your ki blasts up close, you will have a hard time opening someone up. Almost everyone who complains about people holding perception are the type of people who do not use key blasts. And then they'll be like, oh, I don't use key blasts because I'm not a bitch. I don't key blast spam. Well, it's a really important part of the game, and that's why perception spamming gets you, because you have some sort of weird ego against using key blasts. So really notice, he's not using his key blasts. Okay, another revenge counter. Really bad. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's because the game makes it seem like revenge countering is the best combo breaker. It doesn't matter what the game says, right? At this rank, you should notice that revenge countering is not working for you. So you have to adapt and stop doing it. Like, I remember on my first day of playing the game, I tried using revenge countering. I noticed it's not safe. So I stopped, literally after just 1 day of using it. He had wild sense there. Nice gut punch. Another revenge counter. And that's a huge mistake. Like I keep saying, you have to use your super perceptions. Revenge countering is good for keeping in the engagement. If they're trying to knock you back and you know they're trying to set something up like an instant sparking, that's when you use a revenge counter. Or maybe you want to bait them to use a perception to counter your revenge counter and thus make them spend 2 skill points. Notice how I destroyed his Frieza soldier there. 2 DP characters are not that strong. People really love to complain about low DP characters, but once you open them up, they're done for. I remember when I made my 5-man team of Frieza soldiers and so many people were calling me cheesy. And it's just like, if you let me switch, constantly switch, that's on you, right? It's not my fault that I'm able to switch and preserve my really weak team of Frieza soldiers. Not to mention 5 Frieza soldiers is only 10 DP. I'm missing 5 DP right there. But I think I've only brought out my Gohan and Lord Slug. Yes, I have a 5-man team, but I'm capable of still winning without 5 characters. I only use a 5-character team in the case of me bumping into a fellow Sweat. He could have used a super perception there to stop me. What does he do here? Okay, he gets a super counter off on me. That's good. I bring out Lord Slug again. He's not using his Ki Blast at close range. Notice how I use my Ki Blast at close range and I'm able to open him up pretty easily. Okay, you see how super perception stopped me there? That was a good super perception. If he did that more often, he'd stop my combos and force me to play differently. But since I see he's not using super perception, I'm just gonna spam my heavy moves. And heavy moves do a ton of damage. And they're a lot harder to super counter than regular rush attacks. You see how I'm using super perception. I don't care to save my skill points. Right now I have a lot of skill points because he's just not opening me up and I'm able to save them. But had he been opening me up more with his Ki Blasts and forced me to block his combos, I would use a super perception to stop him. And there it is, another revenge counter. Revenge counter equals 2 super perceptions. 2 super perceptions is way better than 1 revenge counter. You will build the skill points to do a revenge counter through Vanish Wars, and then you use that revenge counter to prevent him from knocking you back. And I was at a 20-something win streak there, and like I said, most of my games look like this. Not only, but most of the games I show on my channel are the games where they give me a good challenge, and that's why it ends in a timeout. But a lot of people like to say, oh, all of your games end in a timeout. No, majority of my games is just me using 2 characters and wiping people's teams, because there is a massive skill gap. But I will teach you guys how to try and close that skill gap. Notice how he started out again. No Ki Blasts. Ki Blasts are not cheap. That's your option to open them up. Perception does not stop Ki Blasts. Perception will cause them to block instead of using perception. Look, that's exactly what I did. And I don't think he knows how to... Okay, he does know how to recover from Ki Sickness. But he has 3 skill points. That's 3 super perceptions. He could have used 1 super perception on me. there, especially if he just wants to save his skill points.
Fired up now.
Okay, I transformed to SSJ1. And notice how I'm not spamming my ki blasts. I'm not burning through my ki. A lot of people love to just mash their ki blast button and then burn through their ki. I'm just doing it one at a time, seeing how he reacts to it. I mess up that combo. Super Perception again would have stopped me there, but he's not using Super Perception. And instead, goes for a Revenge counter. Okay, you see how Super Perception stopped me there, and we're forced into neutral. And you see how he opened me up with ki blasts. If he did that the entire game instead of doing what he's doing, that one interaction is a perfect example of what he should have been doing. He probably did that unintentionally because Popovich could only shoot one ki blast at a time. But funnily enough, that's how you're supposed to, well, not supposed, I don't want to say supposed to, but that's how, in my opinion, how you should use ki blasts. But you can see with his Raccoon, he's spamming ki blasts. He missed most of those ki blasts, and that wasted ki, and now I was able to break his guard and put him in an exhausted state. I think it's called a burnout state. That's what someone told me.
What's wrong?
Okay, let's see what he does here. Oh, he got my back. Nice. He drops the combo, though. Yeah, I say you should be using close range ki blasts as well, but like, you gotta also learn how to do it. But if you do it more often enough, you'll start to pick up when is a good time and when is not a good time. Right there, what he did when he threw that charged ki blast at me, not a good time. The normal ki blasts are good at mid and close range. You want to throw charged ki blasts from long range. But since we're playing on the World Tournament stage, it's quite the small stage, so there's not many long-range engagements. But a lot of A ranks and S ranks, just a lot of people in general, even Z ranks, even I make this mistake. You need to set up your Z-Burst dash with a charged ki blast. If you do not do that and do a raw Z-Burst dash, do not try and attack him unless you know he's not going to perception you. But again, I think I only use my Slug and Gohan. Yeah, I approached him slowly because I thought maybe his controller got disconnected, but I think he was just trying to transform. But notice there, he did a Z-Burst dash and I was able to perception him pretty easily. So most times, so how you should see this is that ki blasts are the key to opening someone up. If you just go up to them and just press your attack button, you're going to get perceptioned. And if you have an ego about not using your ki blast because you deem it as a ki spamming move or whatever, or a bitch move, then that's on you. Don't complain about people using perception. Okay, I down his Gohan. And notice he approached me and he just attacked me without any ki blast. Immediate sonic sway and perception. And see how I'm not spamming it. I'm just approaching him slowly and throwing one at a time. And you see how I'm at ki advantage now still, despite using my ki blasts. Because if you do it one at a time, your passive ki regen will regain. You'll gain it back. Of course, you won't gain all of it back, but it's better than just mindlessly spamming your ki blast and wasting all your ki. And then you lose the engagement because he gets a super counter off and you don't have ki to challenge the Vanish War. Oh, my low sweep missed there. Damn, my super missed. So I just wasted my ki there. That sucks. He gets a switch off because of it. I should have just continued pressuring him normally. Really bad choice using a full power charge in front of me. You are not safe for a little bit after using it, so it's best that you use it when you know you can't be opened up. And that's another issue with a lot of A ranks and S ranks. They don't know what is safe and what isn't safe. A revenge counter is clearly not safe. If you do something and they're able to open you up right after it and you can't do anything about it, that means it's not safe. You should have been able to pick up on that and be like, oh, okay, maybe I shouldn't do that anymore. But a lot of people, they don't pick up on when to adapt. But again, I wipe his Frieza Soldier easy. People say 2 DP characters are really broken when they're not. they're broken to you because you don't know how to keep up the pressure. But here I am. I'll teach you how to keep up the pressure. And ki blasts are key to also keeping up pressure. You see, he could switch there, but he didn't. He couldn't switch because I'm pressuring him with my ki blast. You saw he was backing up and using his own ki blasts. But my ki blasts were able to hit him and he couldn't switch. And here he is on his last character. I used my super perception, stopped him from opening me up. Super perception is good for stopping people from extending their combos and also opening you up. Perception will activate on normal attacks, but super perceptions will activate on combo extensions and also heavy attacks. So usually when they're extending their combo, that's when you could use a super perception. So if I open you up and I try to extend my combo and you hold perception, you will probably get a super perception off and stop my combo extension. So that's when, if you're getting super perception all the time, that's when instead of extending your combo, you do a sidestep or you use ki blast to open them up again. But once someone gets a super perception off, whether if it's you or your opponent, you guys are reset back to neutral. So if both of you guys are mashing after a super perception, you will clash. And if you're ready for the clash, you could do an immediate rush chain attack, a heavy attack, or you could just do a high speed movement, a vanish. So you have to know when you're going to clash. And if you both are mashing, again, if you both are mashing after a super perception, you will clash. If you don't want to deal with the clash, you could also just back away and do ki blasts. But notice, the beginning of the round, he just approaches me, no ki blast, no nothing. I'm able to get a 15k damage combo off on him. Revenge counter is no good. Even if you genuinely think that is a good counter, like, he's been using it the entire game. He has not adapted to me punishing him. It's like if this is the equivalent of touching something that's hot and getting burned by it and still touching it afterwards. He's not adapting and learning. He's getting burned for using a revenge counter and he's still using a revenge counter. He would be better off just saving his skill points, because if he uses a revenge counter, yes, he'll break my combo, but I'm able to punish him afterwards, and that's really bad for him because technically that's a combo reset for me. And combo resets will reset the damage, and therefore there's no damage scaling. Meaning I get more damage off on him. He could have used a super perception there to stop my combo extension. And I know he could do this, but I see he's not doing it, and that's my adaptation to his gameplay. I see he's not using super perception, so I really abuse it. I keep going for the heavy extension and get a lot of damage off. And again, uses another. You see the difference. You see the super perception. He was able to win the engagement there because of the super perception. But then you saw he did a revenge counter before that. Okay, maybe he's adapting. You see how we clash. We're set at neutral. Maybe he is adapting. Hey, to be fair, sometimes it takes people a few games to adapt. But I just hold perception there and see if he goes for it. But you can see how the super perception is really helping him win back engagements. And I could easily win back the engagement as well. But this is where the skill comes into place. This is where the neutral comes into place. The super perception is a big part of neutral. Let's see if I finish this Frieza Soldier for the third time in a row. Yep, I use a revenge counter to keep myself in the engagement. Whenever you get knocked back, that's a good time to use a revenge counter. But of course, you shouldn't do it mindlessly. There is a time and place for it. I used the revenge counter there to try and prevent him from switching. Too bad it was too slow. But he used the super perception there. Really good. Too bad I was able to win back the engagement. And again, notice how I'm approaching slowly without spamming ki blasts. One at a time. See how he reacts to it. And that way I don't burn my ki and I'm able to scout out how he plays. I use my own super perception. Notice how it was able to stop his combo. But too bad he was able to win back the engagement. He did a raw Z-burst dash there. He should have set it up with a charged ki blast. Because he didn't do that, I was able to use a perception and stop him from opening me up. Oh yeah, dude, Lord Slug's charged ki blasts are so good. Especially from close range. I also notice super perception takes 1 skill point. So I take note, when they have 0 skill points, that's when I really take advantage of using my heavy attacks. If I were going up against a good player who knows how to use their super perception, of course I would not be spamming my heavy attacks. But since I see he's not using his super perception, maybe because he doesn't know how, he doesn't know that it's really useful, or maybe he's saving his skill points. But for people who are saving their skill points, that's when I do the same thing. I spam my heavy attacks on them. So I'm happy to go against people who depend on instant spark. I'm happy to go up against people who depend on their skill points to help them, because those are the people I could do really high damage combos to.
Let's do it.
And I finish as Teen Gohan.
There you are.
I think for all 3 of these matches, I used only Lord Slug and Gohan. So this is how most of my matches go. Again, I only really show the really difficult matches I have, the challenging matches I have. Here I am having fun trying to go sparking mode. He taunts me. I don't think he meant to taunt. He was probably trying to switch his character. Some people, they mess up their inputs and do a taunt instead of a character switch. This is SSJ Gohan, so I have an unblockable ulti here. So I just do it point blank. He can't block this. And since I will be out of ki here, I think I use a full power charge to try and continue pressuring him. Yeah, he was a little slow with his switch. That's a big mistake a lot of people do too. They're not practiced on being able to switch really quickly. You have to practice being able to switch really quickly. Lord Slug's high tension is really good because it gives him 2 ki bars. And that's it. And that's game. I win with only 2 characters, so I don't want to hear people saying, oh, you win most of your games through timing them out with 5 characters. No, most of the games that I show are the challenging games where that's how the game has to end. When you're playing against someone who's of equal skill, the game could take forever. I think like you would need 20 minutes if you're going against someone of equal skill in a 5v5 to actually finish the game. And 20 minutes is way too long. But to summarize, the biggest mistakes a lot of people make, the S rankers, the A rankers, just everyone in general, is they don't take advantage of super perception. Super perception is very strong to prevent combo extensions. They use revenge countering too much. Revenge countering is not a combo breaker. It doesn't matter what the game says. Like, you should have been able to adapt. You should have noticed that you get punished for using a revenge counter. Revenge countering is good for extending the engagement. You will get punished for it, but it's a give and take situation. You extend the engagement so they can't set up instant sparking. They can't set up a switch. And third, the most important thing in my opinion is that they do not take advantage of ki blasts, close range ki blasts. Ki blasts are the way to open up your opponent. If you are frustrated over perception spammers, it's because you do not use ki blasts. Use your normal ki blasts up close. Do not spam it, just press it one at a time, and that will force them to deflect or block. And maybe sometimes they'll still catch you with a perception, but half the time you'll also be able to catch them and force them to deal with your block strings. And from long range, you should be using charged ki blast. That way you could set up your zebra stash, because if you do raw zebra stashes, I bet you will get perceptioned. So yeah, that's basically it. Those are the 3 biggest tips. If you learned something, like and subscribe. Have a good night, you guys.